As you can see, I'm in my kitchen at the moment, or as I like to call it for today, my laboratory. I got up this morning, I checked the weather, minus 30 out there when I got up. With the wind chill factor, it was minus 39. One more degree, and that's where Celsius and Fahrenheit meet and say, damn, it's cold. Decided I might want to stay in the house today. I've been meaning to do a video on making my fire starters, which is just the cotton ball and Vaseline. I will do one of those to show you, but I was doing some research this week and I found a video by Jiu-Jitsu 2000 from about 4 years ago. He has a complete different method, and I was going to show you that today because I tested it yesterday and it works fantastic. First, my method. I usually take a cotton ball and I find the end of it, if I can, unroll it, and I just dip the very end of it into the Vaseline, scoop up a good little amount, and then I roll it back up. And I usually have one of my small little jars that I stick it in right away. This one, I'm going to be using it to demonstrate the difference between the two later. So this one is going to be burnt later on. I'm going to put it in this pie plate and I'm going to take that outside later and light it to show you as a comparison against the new ones I'm making. Now the new ones I'm making, instead of a cotton ball, I'm using cotton pads. I'll just pull out a stack of these. I took an old can and I just used my knife and I cut it in half. I'm going to put it in that frying pan on a very low heat. I grabbed a stick and I'm going to put some Vaseline in the can. And then I turn the heat on. Nothing too crazy. Just on a low heat. I usually put it around 3 or so. Take a few minutes for that to heat up and melt. While that's melting, I have a very old cookie sheet that I usually drag around with me if I need it when we go out to the bush. I don't really use it for cooking anymore. And I take a piece of wax paper and I line that pan. Once the Vaseline has melted, I'm going to get a pair of needle nose pliers, and I take one pad. You have to make sure they're 100% cotton. I dip it in the Vaseline and I set them on the wax paper, and then I will put those in the freezer just to help them dry a little faster for filming purposes. Once that's done, I have another can. I have some paraffin wax, which I'll be melting. And the paraffin is clear, so I just grabbed a box of crayons. I'm going to break off a piece of the blue one. I'm going to take the paper off, and I'm going to throw just a little piece of that in with the paraffin, and that's going to color the wax so that you can see the disc better. You'll have a better idea of what I'm doing. Slowly melting. You don't want it to melt too fast. You don't need it too hot. Doesn't need to be boiling, it just needs to be melted. Now the Vaseline is melted, so I'm going to just grab the tip of this with the very tip of these needle nose, and it's just a quick dip out, let it drip a little bit, and then I set it on the wax paper to dry. Pick one up, grab it by the tip, dip, set it to dry. Repeat that process. So I'm going to do this and bring you back for the next step. All the discs are dipped and I put them in the freezer to help them dry a little faster. I managed to get about 15 of them. Now I have a separate can that I used yesterday to melt a bit of wax when I made a couple of test ones. There's still a little bit of wax left in there. So we're going to let that start to melt. I took a small piece of the blue crayon. I took the paper off. We'll throw that in because we're using paraffin wax. I'm only throwing the crayon in to color them so that you can see what I'm doing, because clear on white, you'll never see it. Now, to make the paraffin melt a little faster, it works better if you cut it into small pieces. So let me get my knife and I'll show you how we're going to do that. I've taken out a cutting board and I just put a little bit of wax paper over top, just so that I don't get too much wax onto the cutting board. And now I'm just going to take my knife and shave off little chunks. So now that it's much smaller pieces, I can throw those in the can. And let that slowly start to melt. Wax is pretty much all melted. Time to start the dipping process. Now you'll see right here there's a little white strip. Don't worry about that. Once this dries a little bit, I will grab it from the other end and re-dip it, and that'll cover everything. Now that I've got them all dipped, the white parts where my pliers were, I can just re-dip those. And then everything is waxed. Now, the whole purpose of the wax is to make them waterproof. Or at the very least, very water resistant. So I'm going to finish these up. and then we can get on to the testing phase. Okay, so these are now dipped and drying. Here's the cotton ball with Vaseline that I made earlier. And this is one that I made yesterday. I held on to it for demonstration purposes for today. Now the way you use these, the wax will protect it from the water. And the way to use it is to spread it open just so that you can see these fibers. The more tiny fibers, the better. Now I'm only using half because when I watched someone else make this, Jiu-Jitsu 2000, he actually threw his in water after it was spread apart. So I'm going to soak this one in this bowl of water. And I have another pan so that we can tell them apart. Spread it apart again to get some of those fibers. I will lay that in that tray. I'm going to grab my ferro rod and put my jacket on. And we're going to go outside and light these up and see how long they last. Wow, it's cold out here. I brought out Anne's phone so that I can time this. Now this one is the one that was soaked in the water. Let's see if we can't get this to light. And there you go, that one's lit. Now I'm going to light these two and I'll start the timer and we'll see how long, which one lasts longer. Whew. So the one dipped in water, that was just to show that it lights. So let's get that out of the way and showcase the duel between the other two. Now, I know the one that I dipped in water, I had to turn the camera off to come outside and light it. When I get a chance, probably in the spring, I'll do it again, but I'll dip it in water and light it right away without turning the camera off so you can see the difference. So the cotton ball died out at 4 minutes and 50 seconds or so. Her stopwatch isn't like mine, it doesn't add the time. But as you can see, this one is still going. And the fact that they're waterproof really helps out. But that gives you plenty of time if your twigs are wet or anything. That gives you a long time with a good hot flame to get your fire lit. Well, Doesn't take long. You got to put your hands back in your pockets. It's cold out here. I don't know if you can see that. 7 minutes, 13 seconds. And that's with just half. All right, let's pick this up and head back inside. The burn time on half of one of these discs was 7 minutes, 13 seconds, which is good. And knowing that if I accidentally drop it in water, I can still make it work is fantastic. So I think these are going to work way better. Now, as for storage, I cleaned out the empty Vaseline container. And for now, I have another of my steel containers, so I can put a few in here. I can even break one in half and put it in. Now I've got 4 in there. And then I can just put the rest in this container. And this can stay at home, whereas the other one will go in my pack. And then as I use some out of that container when I go out, I can come back and replenish. So as I was saying, I can keep this one in my pack. This can stay at home and I can refill it whenever I need to. They're very easy to make. They're going to be very handy. I'm kind of glad I have found that. But now, I guess I'm going to turn this off, clean up my lab, turn it back into a kitchen, put all this stuff away. So if you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit the like button. If you want to see more of it, hit the subscribe button. And if you're going to do that, hit the notification bell. It'll let you know whenever we put out a new video. Thanks for watching. I hope next time we're actually in the bush. And we'll see you on the next one.